Dobek, latest developments on the Zambia or the Zamtel front. First, we've heard this morning that Libya's LAP Green Networks is to buy 75% of the Zambian fixed line operator for $257 million. I mean, what have you made of this latest announcement?
I think it's probably positive for Zambia. The Zambians have been trying to sell Zamtel for quite a while, a number of attempts, but always minority stakes, and no one was quite really interested in buying a minority stake in that operation. LAP Green is an operation that has been expanding into Africa. Notably, they acquired majority shares in UTL in Uganda, the local incumbent telecommunications operator. Having said that, there's been mixed, probably, results from UTL itself. I think, and they certainly have been doing okay on the mobile front and reasonable on the fixed line front, that are not really expanding too much there. But I think it also had to do with LAP Green's internal structure, the way they actually ran those operations, one person being responsible for a number of African opcos and not being able to devote a lot of attention to any particular one. Now I think they've gone through a restructurization process, so hopefully they'll be able to devote more attention to Zamtel. It has been certainly an underperformer in that market, and it's got a lot of catching up to do as far as mobile operations are concerned against Zain and MTN.
Well, certainly that underperformance coming despite the fact that this is a monopoly operator in Zambia. But I mean, you know, it's quite interesting that you say no other person or no other party has been interested in buying a stake in Zamtel, because always on the table has been this minority shareholding. What's interesting is that if you look at the detail of this transaction that's taken place, I mean, we've had government reiterating that, yes, it holds a 25% stake in the firm. They have an active say in its affairs, including 2 out of 7 seats on that board, and veto rights over certain decisions as well. Now, they haven't really gone into detail of what certain decisions would actually include, but just how tricky do you see this making business operations moving forward?
It can be, and we've seen an example, for instance, of Orascom with the internal partners in the DRC, in the Congo, that has come to a head in a sense. And I think what needs to be put in place, and it's very clear, is any shareholder agreement that's put in place needs to stipulate exactly what the expectations of both parties are. And as you indicated, we don't know what those veto rights are, but an operation such as LAP Green, any investor coming into a foreign market would want to be able to manage that company and make most of the operational and tactical decisions, if obviously not all the strategic decisions, but preferably those as well. But they want to be able to have a more or less a free hand to be able to operate. Otherwise, they've invested the money and they sort of sit on the sidelines and may see it going to waste.
Exactly. Well, it's exactly the kind of issue that's come to the fore in Algeria as well. I mean, we've seen the Djezzy sale in Algeria being held up, where we've had government over in Nigeria blocking that part of that sale to South Africa's MTN, saying that it has, you know, a right of first refusal to actually acquire this business. What have you made of the developments we're seeing unfold in that territory?
Well, I think there are probably maybe 2 issues to this, and certainly, you know, they've got the right of first refusal, so they have every right to acquire that. Number one, Djezzy is a very well-run, profitable operation in Algeria, mobile operator, and there's no, I think, surprise that the government probably would want a bigger stake in it to benefit from it in the future. Another theory has it that it could be as vain as Algeria losing a game to Egypt, and the government, effectively Orascom being an Egypt-based company, the government of Algeria took offense to that and decided, well, we're not going to play ball and we are going to exercise our right. As far as MTN is concerned, I think it's very unfortunate because, yes, there are other operations within the Orascom stable that it wants to sell that are profitable and are probably a palatable buy, but Algeria is the kingpin in that group, and I think if MTN is not able to acquire Djezzy, I think they probably would have a serious second look and probably at the whole deal, and probably not go forth with the purchase of Orascom.
Well, with no timetable being declared by government, I mean, where does this leave Orascom and specifically the Algerian arm of that business now?
Well, it's going to continue, I think, business as usual, because obviously they need to service customers. Ultimately, Orascom will get its money, whether it's from MTN or from the Algerian government, but It's just a single operation. Orascom, if it wants to dispose of other assets around Africa, would then have to find a suitor to acquire those, and it may not be as easy as it may have been with MTN, because of the Algeria being a key operation within that group. But you never know. There are other operators who are interested in buying singular operations, maybe that want to move into African markets out of Europe.
Well, we know that these are just two scenarios that are playing themselves out on the continent, but it's certainly not a new issue that's come to the surface. What do you see this spelling for foreign investors' interest in African assets? I mean, this could be perceived as moves for government to stamp their authority and possibly alienating investors moving forward.
It could, I suppose, but I think we've seen a trend where, and even with the example of Zamtel, where the government was very reluctant to sell a majority stake and wanted to retain control as much of it as possible for years of the incumbent. Even now, over the past few days, we again saw the parliament effectively vetoing or refusing to commit to that sale, and obviously its mind was changed. For whatever reason. So I think the pattern is that governments have realized that as far as incumbents and fixed line incumbents are concerned, they need to certainly rope in foreign investment and foreign management that that will come with that investment in order to move forward. And that has been the pattern across Africa. There are a couple cases such as ETC in Ethiopia, where the government's still very much of the view that they will continue managing that operation and owning it. And we are yet to see very positive developments, but the move has been in the right direction. And the classic case of Nigeria, where they've been trying to sell or flog it by now probably a dead horse, Nitel, for a number of times for years. And the latest development has fallen through again a couple of months ago.
Exactly. Well, certainly for governments, granted, it is a very tightrope to be walking, a fine balancing act to be playing, where you want to bring in investor interest, foreign investor interest into your country, but also protect your national champions.